Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk Roundtable. I'm Dr. Leslie, and my program is Take Your Life Back and More. This is not a public broadcast. It's usually sent out to most of my clients or prospective clients. Hey, I want to go ahead and let my co-host give a quick introduction. So, how about you, Chelsea?
I'm gonna volunteer, so that works out great. I'm Chelsea. I've been working with Leslie for I think it'll be 3 years. I think it's already 3 years. I don't know. It's either 2 or 3 years, one of the two. And I've done a couple of the Take Your Life Back and More programs. I've done a couple of master classes and a retreat. And honestly, like the style that Leslie has has really always helped me, just from the codependence things that I've got. So I think group therapy has really been a big game changer for me. So I'm really happy that we get to like talk about the growth and debrief because I don't believe in it. So hey.
Cool, Jamie.
I'm Jamie. I've been working with Leslie for a few years now also. Helped my life immensely. I feel like a more relaxed person. I feel like a normal person now. And I can just like handle things now, and it's really been incredible. Um, yeah.
And we
Hi.
have a special guest today, my bestie, Fran White. You want to tell us
Hi.
a little bit about
I
yourself, Fran?
Sure. Hi, I'm Fran. I'm Leslie's friend. I and Bestie. I worked with her at the VA. We had a blast. We used to go on these great walks. Leslie told me these amazing stories about her life, and I think I connected with her more so than so many other people that I've come across in my life is because she was very authentic and genuine, and I love that. And I honestly didn't know her therapy styles or anything like that because what she was doing at the VA was a little bit different when I met her. But as she started explaining the programs and what she does and so forth, I found it all so refreshing because I also worked with a lot, and Leslie would know this, a lot of different psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers. And so I would listen to them. And what Leslie's perspective later from what I heard was just so holistic and so real. And I think that connection is still there and is very strong because I believe in her work.
Oh, cool. You guys did really good for introductions today. We're usually like quick, but thanks everybody. All right, so our topic today is taking that first step. Okay. I guess when I'm saying that first step, this could be in anything, just or kind of around the Take Your Life Back and More program. Maybe that first step in your healing or first step going to therapy, first step moving across the country, Jamie's sake, and quitting your job, starting a new career, anything like that. And so I guess the first question I'm gonna throw out there to you is, what about that one time that you did make a first step at something, and how did that make you feel, or what are some of the things that took place to kind of make get you to that first place? So yeah, doing a first step, I've done a lot of different kinds of first steps. I think if I'm gonna answer that question first, that um, I'm gonna talk about that time where I said I was gonna move across the country. Okay. And I wasn't going to live in St. Louis anymore. And what that meant is I was going to have to let go of my family, my friends, and what I saw was my life and start something totally new. I was just finishing up school. I thought that going across the country and going to the other ocean was the way in which I would find myself. I was scared to death. I have to say that I needed to do something first before that big step. So I took a trip by myself to Europe for a month. And when I came back, that plan got a little bit easier. So, yeah. So just briefly, think about one of those times, that you took your first step and what that was like and how it felt doing it, I guess. I felt scared and empowered at the same time. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. And of course, that's been history. I've moved all over the country and since then. And it does, I don't know that it gets any easier to move cross country, but it still changed me, too. So who wants to go? Um,
I will say it
Chelsea
does not get
or JC?
easier to
Jamie?
move across the country. Because the first step that I'm thinking of is actually when I moved from Washington to Texas. And that was my very first time moving out of Washington, moving somewhere that I'd never been before, or like anything that wasn't like familiar to me. And we'd gone to Texas a couple of times to like visit my husband's family and everything, but it like felt like I felt so confident, and like I felt so confident when I was like leaving Washington, and I felt great about it, and I had a really good like travel there and everything. And then once I got there, it was just kind of like, okay, now what? And that's what really kind of got me down there, just like the after taking that first step and like packing up my car and going, it was like the journey actually began after that first step. And I'm kind of feeling that right now too with my more recent move. It is just as hard as before. I kind of know what to expect now, but it certainly is not easy still.
Yeah.
Feel
Yeah,
like
and
it's like
we'll get into that post first step stuff here too in our talk.
Yeah, I was curious, what do you feel like was like the biggest difference, kind of reflecting on when you moved from Washington versus like you moving now?
I think that the biggest difference now is that like, we moved to Texas like with a lot more kind of in place. Like my husband's family was there, and we would be able to like go see them every weekend. And we had like an apartment and that kind of thing ready for me when I got there. And we were like already in process of like purchasing a home, and that's very different from this time. So like just a huge lack of stability this time, and kind of learning from that, learning what my personal like boundaries need to be when we move. And like I have to have somewhere to move to. Like I can't just live in the RV. I can't live in the trailer. It's driving me crazy. I'm trying to have fun, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it make you scared in any way? I mean, when you sit back and you think about the situation you're in, does it bring up any fears for you
Fran, I
that
am
you have
scared
to work through?
shitless.
Okay.
Just
All right. Yeah,
thanks,
no,
Fran.
no. I mean, I think that's just so normal. I mean, when I moved when I with my husband and I worked at Sacramento Army Depot, and it closed, and I moved to Boise with my he wasn't even my husband yet, and I was really afraid because my family, all my support, my brothers, my sisters, my mom, who were a very close family, they all lived in Sacramento, California. And so for me to get up and move, it was like this big deal, and drudged up all this fear and nervousness in my system. And I had to work through all of that. And some of it, I'm the kind of person though, unfortunately, that's how it was. If when I got scared and nervous, if you were in my path, I just something's bad going to happen. If you were a barrier in my path, you know,
Mhm.
to what I wanted to achieve, which was that security.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm wondering, I mean, there's lots of emotions
Mhm.
in moving with uncertainty, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I've had to really like just figure out how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And like I think that with the Texas move, and then it's kind of like revisiting it again.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, what do you think holds people back the most from starting something new or making a big, change like that? Yeah.
fear. Fear. I think fear is one of the strongest emotions. I think, for people to move forward, you got to
Fear of
push
what?
those boundaries. Fear of everything, fear of the unknown, fear that you're not good enough, fear that, you're not going to succeed, you're going to fail, you're not going to get back up, or you don't know how to get back up. Fear totally that just, and I think it engulfs you sometimes, to the point where you become stuck. And if you don't push that and keep pushing that boundary and realize that you either move forward or you stay where you're at. That's your choice. What do you want to do? And I did that in jobs that I wanted to apply for. And I was so afraid. And my husband, thank God I had a partner who, you know, um, believed in me and said, no, you can do this. You can do this. And it was a leadership position. And at that time, there was only one person who wanted me in that position. All the others did not. And I knew that. But I also knew that so I went forward and I was really afraid. And when I got there, you know what I found? They're just like me. They're just like me. And and I thought they, were going to be smarter, more put together. Oh God, no. Made
Chelsea,
mistakes, same
what
emotional issue. I'm just saying
Yeah.
everything.
I love that you brought up like what specifically the fears were because I kind of got my wheels turning on like what was the specific fear that I had? Because like when I think about my first, it's a couple of things. It's like when I first like we're talking about moving, what was the fear when I first, got this job and knew that I was going to move to Texas? Honestly, it was unsticking from my family. Like that was the biggest fear that I had. Like I was cocky enough to be like, I'll figure out the budget, I'll figure out an apartment, like I'm fine, I'm charming, like I can get another job if this one fucks off, like it's fine. But like I was crying after I knew I got the job because I was like, my brother is going to be so sad. And so that was probably my biggest fear, like in actually even telling my family that I got a job and was going to move to Texas. Everything else, I was just like, fuck it, like I can do whatever. Um, but then the other first that I kind of thought of was when I, like the first time I actually chose myself over my job. Um, that was, that was me, like, not that long ago, it was like last November was really the first time that I made that choice. Um, and I don't think it definitely wouldn't have happened had I not already kind of been on this journey with therapy and like understanding, where my codependency issues are and things like that. But I mean, basically, I found this network spinal therapy or network spinal like chiropractor work, and their hours were only during my work hours. And I'm a Capricorn. I very much tie my identity to my job, and I very much care about how I'm perceived at my job. And so the idea that I was going to have to like leave work during work hours to go get this care that like I knew in my gut was really going to help me like make space because that's really what I was trying to fucking do is make space and create balance. And I was like, this thing, like I know that there's something really good there, but I'm going to have to talk to I reported to my president. I was like, I'm gonna have to talk to my president about leaving work during work hours. They're gonna think I'm a piece of shit. And it was really scary. Like that fear again was kind of like ripping away from, you know, their perceptions and those kinds of things. But I mean, sitting where I am now, I don't have that job anymore. But sitting where I am right now, I'm like, I actually that kind of work kind of gave me a lot more grounding and also helped me move through the transition a lot more. So definitely fears around just separating, I guess, from things that like I'd really known and had a lot of security in. But the reason I jumped was because I believed in like my deepest gut that there was something on the other side of that that was going to give me something more, which was how I felt when I first
Mhm.
got into therapy as well. So I was like, it's scary,
Yeah.
but I was just at a point where I was like, I have all these puzzle pieces. I can't see the picture. I need a therapist to help me see the picture. Um, and it was hard.
I really like the way that you described that turning point, where you could make the decision into that first step. Does anybody else kind of relate to that, or a situation where you remember the turning point that just kind of got you there? Yeah, Jamie.
Yeah, I remember with this well, with my move to Texas, it was like there was no way that my husband and I were going to like get into a better position if we stayed in Washington. And so, like, our options for school were kind of limited, our job options were limited without school. And it was just kind of like the same family, same friends, same status quo for I don't know how many years, but like, yeah, I just kind of wanted something more for myself. I wanted to have a new experience. And that's what kind of brought me on board with going to Texas. And then with this one, to Minnesota from Texas, it's been just like that kind of gut feeling, knowing that like this is something that we just have to do. Because we were either going to move to Austin or Duluth, Minnesota. And I really, really wanted it to be Austin.
Yeah.
Um, but
No
it's
offense,
not.
Minnesota. Yeah.
It's not Austin. And so just like when my husband finally got that job offer, it was like I kind of looked at it and I was like, there's no way that I can hold back from the thing that we're supposed to be doing now.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a gut feeling.
Like a leap of faith almost a little bit, where it's like
It is.
it is that fear of the unknown because I was like, oh, I don't know what's on the other side. But
Right.
I did believe that what was on the other side was going to be good. And I think that
Right.
that's what I was like leaning towards, was kind of
Absolutely.
like that
Yeah,
promise of
definitely
it
have
being
to have
good.
that faith in there.
Yeah.
But just I felt like that I had to turn off my negative thinking about it and keep my eye on the ball, what I wanted, what I thought was going to be down there at the destination of what I was going to be. And then it seemed like mindset to me. No matter what, I'm going to that destination. I'm going to get to that place. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to have that letter after my name. I'm going to be in this new place. I'm going to do this. Um, yeah. Any
Yeah.
yeah. You want to speak to that, Fran, or
Yeah,
that
no,
turning point?
I love no, I love everything that everybody's saying. I think, the bottom line is, even though I had, my support system, it's just, I think, choosing yourself,
Yeah.
right? Choosing yourself and following, choosing yourself and moving forward. And sometimes you have to put yourself in that place, that situation, to understand it. And that's what I've always felt like I'm doing.
And the reality there is when we step in, we start to leave parts of ourselves behind because we have to go into a change process, and we're going to be putting on a new identity, a piece of new identity too. So um all right, so next one here before we get into how that feels when you get there. What new first step are you personally standing in front of right now? And, kind of what comes with that. For me, I want to write a book. I even advertise it. I've been advertising it on my website for some time. And I haven't started really. I mean, if you want to know the truth, I mean, of course, I've put my program together. The name of my book is going to be what Take Your Life Back and More. I have 12 modules. I'm going to have twelve chapters. I have writing on each one of those. So I think if I could start by putting together what I have and and doing some free writing on each one of those topics, my reality, my reality into that first step feels like it could go forward. I'm making a couple of half steps. Just talking about it makes me nervous. But if I think about I have a dream. I have a book. Yeah, I had a dream to have my degree and I did it. I had a dream to go on the Camino. I did it. I have to focus on what I've already accomplished and what I said I wanted to do and what I wanted to get. I have no doubt in my mind I'm going to have a book. Okay. I do have no doubt in my mind. So part of my first step is, oh, I don't know. I mean, it's like, oh, I'm still freaked out a little bit. But I've found somebody that can act at, I usually find some kind of a coach or a mentor to walk me through that first step too, like in my business. So sometimes it's not a good choice and sometimes it is, you know? So I mean, am I going to not sit back and try to do it on my own when I know that I do better if I have, somebody to push me through that first step? No, I'm gonna find somebody to push me through that first step, whatever I got to do. Sometimes in that process, I almost it's almost like I need a babysitter for that accountability. Hey, I say I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
if I say it to enough people, I am gonna do it because I don't like to show up and not have done it. Okay, so I use whatever it takes. And yeah, so hopefully I can come back to one of my podcasts and say, hey, I did it. And you can find the book right here. I'll put it right in the comments section. Speaking of
I love
comments
that.
section, and this topic here, I'll have some journal prompts down below here that you can use for yourself on this particular topic. So yeah. Anybody want to speak to that? What one little first step you got in there that you have it they're standing behind? Anybody want to go first? It could be just a boundary you're trying to do with your children. It could
Yeah.
be a boundary you're trying to do with your parent or your sibling or I know that boundaries are my favorite topic, but not really. They're hard. They're really hard.
Yeah. My first step is, I think I've said this multiple times when I retired, is that, you know, I had a hard transition retiring from, being working 13 hour days and always having something to do to not. And I tried different things in between that kept my mind busy and sharp. As Leslie knows, some of the things I told you about, which were, what was it? Not the day trading, but the investing and stuff like that, and learning that whole new world. But now I think, I'm sitting back and I'm still doing that, but I'm trying to focus on my health. And so for me, but at the same time, focus on my children who aren't children, they're adult children who are going through their own issues. And how do I react to that? Because I've always, jumped in to save. And that's who I am. I'm that person who's going to jump in and save you and try to save you. And do I just let them? Should I move or should I stay? If I move, does that mean that I'm allowing them to take on their own life and learn through it and go through it? Or should I just stay where I'm at, where I'm comfortable, and, just let things flow as they should and try not to get involved as much? But that's very difficult for me. So that's my first step is, like the song says, do I stay or do I go? Or whatever. Maybe that might not even be the lyrics. I don't know. I just make it up. Make it up as I go. But nevertheless, you know, is that's where I'm having difficulty in that first step because always throwing that lifeline out, trying to save somebody. And that's my husband keeps telling me that's to do. And so you got to let them, fail and come back. So I'm stuck with
Or
my first
fail
step.
and work out their problems too, Fran, so not so
Yeah.
much, yeah. So
Oh,
let them
yeah.
figure it out. Yeah,
Yeah. Let them figure it out. So
yeah.
that's where I'm at. And when, and because that's for parent, well, at least for me, I shouldn't speak for everybody like I always do, but for myself, I think that's the hardest thing to do is watch somebody that will eventually succeed. And I mean by for me, success is mental and physical health and happiness. For me, that's success. Not making $1 million and owning a Lamborghini. I don't care about that stuff. So, and I really feel in my heart of hearts and my mind that, as a mom, I've passed down that strength to where you're gonna get there. It's just you're gonna have to go through your trials and tribulations, but still, I'm here throwing lifelines. So that's my step. That's that I haven't taken yet, that I'm still trying to work through.
Anti-step. No
Your
lifeline.
anti-step.
That's it.
Yeah, I like that.
That's
Yeah.
my
That's
anti-step.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about
Yeah.
on our walk yesterday. I was telling her about the non-podcast or yeah, maybe I should start calling it the non-book or the book, yeah, X book or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, we love a reframe.
yeah, that makes sense. Anybody else want to comment
Yeah.
on their
Yeah.
sitting duck there?
Um, I feel like I'm kind of in the same place as you, Fran, honestly, is like in terms of like my self-care. So that's definitely been a big part of the journey that I'm on, and it sounds so small, but right now the step that I have is honestly regulating my sleep and then having a good morning routine. Um, and again, it sounds small and kind of silly, but I actually have the luxury of being able to like sleep the amount of hours that I need to sleep, and I have the luxury of having slow mornings like I've wanted for a while. And what I've kind of found is that when I'm able to start like integrating those pieces, um, my shit is just not as haywire during the day. And really, that's like my whole
Yeah.
goal right now is really getting regulated so I can make decisions from a good grounded place instead of a place like I have in the past. So I have a little alarm that's set for 8:30 every night, and I have a little like holistic trank dart like tincture thing that like is supposed to make you sleepy. So that way I get some support and like going to bed and not being on my phone. And then in the morning time, I wake up and I tell Siri to set a timer for an hour, and I just don't touch my phone for the first hour that I'm awake. And I do like my qigong, or I play with my cat, or I'm like stretching. This morning I went for a walk to Starbucks, like so that's my first step right now. Just bookend routines. Let's umbrella that as bookend
Yeah,
routine.
cool.
Yeah.
Jamie, what's your first step? I think you're in your first step, but
Everything. I'm overwhelmed by first steps right now. Everything I
I'm
encounter
actually
is
all fresh out of first steps. I don't have capacity for any more first steps.
I've got so many first steps that I can't even name one.
so so I think that takes us into more of to wrap us up with a topic, and it's what do you do after you get that first step in, because I think part of that is we're projecting into what's going to happen, okay, or not. And but when we get there, we what do we expect? Do we expect it to all feel better now? Okay, now that I have my book done, and is that it? Have I reached my ultimate, thing? Or and I get my I get the MSW program in Duluth, Minnesota, and we have our house, and Kyle's got his garage to do all his fun things, and everything's cool, but things
And
in
then none of that
between.
happens.
Yeah, well, I think that in between it gets really blurry and confusing, and with that process and stuff. So if we were going to help our listeners, how do you keep going when the path starts to get blurry and fuzzy, and you lose a little hope? of the destination. Maybe you could speak to that, Jamie.
I can
Mhm.
certainly speak to that. What I have done, I've been leaning very heavily on my spirituality. And so, like, I'm tarot cards every day, twice a day, journaling about that, of journaling about my feelings, like any like I'm gonna have to buy a new journal and a new notebook, and I've never had to do that before. But I usually
So
give
that tells you
up.
how much
But like
homework she did that I
I've got like
required.
my arm hurts from all of the writing I've been doing. So I've been leaning into that a whole lot. I have been giving myself lately the grace to know that like not every day is gonna feel good. And I've also been trying to like basically brainwash myself into thinking that I am on vacation. And I do think that I believe it now. But like I don't have a job, I don't have responsibilities, like I don't have a house to clean, I don't have anything really to do. Like I am just straight up camping in my RV park every single day. And I've been saying for a whole week now that like I'm on this semi-permanent vacation. I need to embrace that and enjoy that and have a good time with that. And then
Yeah.
the best surprise I could possibly get is that I get to live in a house. And so like I'm just kind of like enjoying how simple my life is.
Mhm. Cool. Yeah,
So I had to
there
Right.
was
just
another
reframe that.
question. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but while we're on this, Jamie, can you speak to that mistaken discomfort that you might have that you think you're doing something wrong or you did something wrong in making that step? And
I don't feel regretful of making that step, this move, but in Texas, I definitely did. It did seem
Mhm.
like something is, it felt like we made a mistake for a few months. And I think that it's just part of like the transition and kind of maybe like grieving your past life. Like I had to grieve my life in Washington. I still do sometimes. And it's always like my relationships there are always changing or like coming going, that kind of thing. I think that I think it's easy to get kind of trapped into a feeling where you feel like you made a mistake, but um you just have to kind of, I just have to focus on the next thing. And right now, my next thing is just like getting to tomorrow. So I have no space for a job or anything like that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody else want to speak to that a little bit? How do we keep going when the path ahead looks messy and, it gets messy and stuff in that process? Or how do you trust this process? And
Mine is faith. Mine is absolute
Mhm.
faith. I have absolute faith, that it's just going to work out. I don't know why. I feel like, I'm going to be shown a path, you know, um, and some might call it blind faith. I don't call it blind faith. I believe in that spirituality. I believe in, you know, this is just going to be another chapter next year, 2 years from now. I'm going to look back and I'm going to say, you know what, why were you so worried? And because it's I've always had that, so that's what I feel like. Or so when you talk about being in the trailer, I remember moving to Texas, for 3 months in a little apartment, something, my husband and I, moved out our larger house into the apartment. The best 3 months, I swear to God, best 3 months. I look back, my husband and I look back on that and we go, oh my gosh, that was just like heaven. It was so much inner peace. So appreciate your time. I will say that
Mhm.
Yeah.
in that trailer.
I'm on vacation.
Perpetual camping trip.
Exactly.
Chelsea, any thoughts about all that? That
Um,
that middle
yeah,
space, or or the
yeah,
the messy pieces, or you
yeah.
know.
Um, it sounds a little cliche, but like the first thing that came up in my mind was enjoying the journey, enjoying the process. And it's annoying because that's not it's not fun. It's not fun to learn how to enjoy the process. And I actually don't like doing the process, truthfully. Like I am very, I've got a lot of habits of avoidance. And so what I've kind of found for me on this like journey as I've gone throughout is that like I don't necessarily need to be at a 10 and I don't want to be at a 1. And what I kind of found, like 10 being like, everything is great and ecstatic and wonderful and I don't have any problems. And then a 1 being like, I am in the depths of hell, like this is ass. I really kind of found that like my sweet spot is really at like an 8. Because when I think about like, okay, how do I actually stay in the process as in doing the process? Because my faith is challenged a lot. My faith is challenged a lot. I can feel it when I'm avoiding my own negative feelings because I'm like not journaling or like I'm smoking or I'm like drinking cold brew at 3 p.m. Like, why am I drinking? You need cold brew at 3 p.m. Um, so I'm really similar to Jamie. Like I come back to a journaling practice and um I come back I come back to gratitude a lot. I come back to gratitude a lot and I just kind of am try to be mindful about like where my energy is sitting because I get very heady. So for me, I can feel that I'm really not in the process when I'm up here, but I'm more likely to be integrating and learning how to enjoy the process and have gratitude in the process and continue to cultivate that faith when I'm here. So that's kind of like probably my biggest struggle and really where like the morning practice and like bookending my fucking days comes in handy a lot is just kind of the energetic boundaries within myself more than like up
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
What I got from that too, or what I remember from that is that thing I learned in my early recovery is that sticking with the basics to kind of get back on track. So whatever my basics are, because I change them up, like get up in the morning, listen to the music, the meditative music, take the 5 minute walk outside, touch the earth, do something with my body, get my head on straight, gratitude, just a simple gratitude, couple of gratitudes, three maybe, to kind of get that head on straight. But yeah, so
Yeah.
sticking with getting back on the basics. Everything else might be torn apart, but if I get like that, that helps me get back on track as fast. Okay.
Yeah, and I
Um,
like usually when I wake up in the morning, when I don't have a good routine, like the first thing I hear upon awakening is like anger and yelling and criticism. And like that's like where I'm at in my liminal space. But when I have a better routine, it's like this morning, shit was quiet. I was like,
yeah, cool.
go on, sleep. Love
All right.
you.
All right, so we're just about out of time. Any last thoughts about our topic? And we're going to follow up with our newsletter too. So if you're on the mail list, you'll get yeah, I'm sure you'll get all of it together. But if not, put your stuff down below. Give me your email, and we'll get you signed up for that. Um,
I've got a final thought.
mhm.
And reflecting on first steps and like just the process overall. My why had to be bigger than my fear. And that
Very
helped me a lot.
good. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Where's my why? I love that. Going back to your why. Yeah.
It was just
Yeah,
important.
Mhm.
I'm here because I'm doing this.
And
This is the meaning and purpose in my life, and this is where I'm headed.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Reminding people of that. All right. So I'm gonna read a poem real quick on the topic, and then I'm gonna sign us all off. All right. So because the first step isn't just a movement forward, it's quite the rebellion against everything that told you stay small, stay silent, stay the same. It's standing at the edge of only the version of yourself you've ever known and whispering, maybe there's more. It's the terror of not knowing what comes next, or the ache of old stories gripping your ankles, begging you not to rise. It's the sacred discomfort of letting go of pain that became familiar, a pain you've built a life around. The first step is hard because it's a doorway, and we'll all know once you walk through, you can't unsee your own light, but still you step. not because it's easy, but because somewhere inside you, something is ready to come alive. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, my
Yeah,
co-hosts. Love you all very
that
much.
was a great poem, Leslie. All
All
right.
right.
Yeah, drop that in the group
Bye,
chat.
everybody. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
I may not know how to leave. I'm
I
just
think